Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Mom Mode. This week we have Madison Feinberg on, and I am so excited to have you on the podcast, Madison. I came across Madison's Instagram when she was pregnant with her twin girls, and she was living in the hospital. And I was so amazed and inspired by just your journey. And so I had to reach out and I would love to just hear all about how it's been going. So welcome to
Yeah,
the podcast.
thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here and just getting to chat with you and connect with other women. I just talk to my babies all day, so having some adult interaction is very nice and refreshing.
Yeah, I definitely know how that feels. So since starting the podcast, I feel that like I'm like, oh my gosh, I love connecting with moms. So that's the whole reason of mom mode.
Yes, it
Um,
definitely takes a village and a tribe, and having that support system for sure is just super nice.
yeah, it definitely does. So for those who don't know you, can you just give a brief overview of who you are?
Yeah, so as she mentioned, my name is Madison Feinberg. I live in Columbus, Ohio, and I have a 2-year-old toddler. He just turned 2 in May. And then I have 4-month-old twin girls. And so, backstory on the twins. So, I found out I was pregnant, just thought I was having a girl because my symptoms were just complete 180 from my son. I'm like, oh, I'm just having a girl. We go in for our appointment. She's like, oh, you're having twins. And we were like, oh my gosh, are you serious? Like complete spontaneous twins, had no clue. And her initial her initial um her initial reaction, I guess, was they're looking like they're gonna be Momo twins. And I was like, what's Momo twins? Never heard of it. And she's like,
Hmm.
oh, well, it's a super rare form of twins that only 1% of all pregnancies have the possibility of having Momo twins and or point zero 0.1% of all twin pregnancies are Momo twins. And I was like, whoa, so this is like super, super rare. And so
Hmm.
basically, what Momo twins are, it is where they share the same sac and the same placenta. So Momo stand for monoamniotic and monochorionic. So they're sharing the same sac and the same placenta, which comes with a huge array of complexities and high risks. And so it was very unknown in the beginning as far as how it would turn out and what our next steps would be. And I think the hardest thing with being diagnosed with having Momo twins was just the options that they give you. And one of the options being you have the option to terminate one or both of the babies. And hearing that was obviously super heartbreaking, and just something that we didn't even want to consider. But just knowing all the risks and complications that can come with the birth, with the girls as they got older, it's a lot to think about. It's very overwhelming. It's a mix of all the emotions that you can imagine. And we just trusted in God, and we just trusted that everything was going to work out. And we just continued on as best as we could with the pregnancy. And obviously it turned out well, but it was definitely a journey for sure. I had to have frequent ultrasounds every 2 weeks. I had to see a high risk doctor every 2 weeks, on top of going to my just regular OB every 2 weeks. I was just constantly in and out of doctor's appointments. And then towards the end of my pregnancy, around 28 weeks, I had to go inpatient at the hospital. I lived there for 37 days until we welcomed the girls. And that was just an experience in itself for sure. You don't have to go inpatient, but it is highly, highly, highly recommended if you do have Momo twins. And it is pretty standard care of practice to go in around 28 weeks and deliver no later than 34 weeks. So we delivered our girls via C section scheduled at 33 and 3. And I was very fortunate to have no complications throughout the pregnancy, which is very rare. A lot of Momo twin pregnancies experience twin transfusion syndrome, cord entanglement, just a ton of complications, and the unfortunate of losing one or both of the babies. So we were very, very blessed. But yeah, I think the hardest thing about going inpatient was obviously just being away from my family, being away from my son, him not really fully understanding what was going on. And
Mhm.
that was just, it's a shock for everybody. My husband basically being a single dad and having to raise him for, gosh, 5+ weeks while I was in there. Um,
Mhm.
and it was just, it was an adjustment for everybody. And so throughout that time in the hospital, I decided to just document my journey. I decided,
Mhm.
something to do to help pass the time. And I didn't really think much of it. I just kind of documented my day to day, put it on social media, and it went viral. It blew up. And I think for the reason being, no one even knows what Momo twins are because they are so rare.
Yeah,
And
I
then
never heard of
two,
it.
yeah, and then two, just the fact that I was able to still work out in the hospital. I was able to
Mhm.
get outside and leave my room and do all of these things that for a high risk pregnancy, a lot of people were confused as to why I was even in the hospital. They were telling me, give up your bed for someone who actually needs it. And just all of these just crazy comments like, you need to be on bed rest and everything like that. When actually my doctors, my high risk doctor and my OB don't even recommend bed rest anymore. They say there's more complications than benefits to bed rest. And so I think it just brought a lot of interest and a lot of controversy, and a lot of other moms were also able to connect who had high risk pregnancies for other reasons
Mhm.
that had to be inpatient. And it was really cool to just connect with a bunch of women all over across the world and getting to share my journey and connect with them and help them feel less alone in their process of going through a high risk pregnancy. So it was really cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I found you. You had come up on like my feed and I'm like, "Oh my gosh." I showed my husband. I'm like, "Look at this. How cool is this?" Like she is literally you're documenting your journey, which I love to see because so many times like high risk pregnancies can seem scary. And I'm sure that you felt that. I'm sure there was a lot of different emotions, but you chose to be so positive and uplifting and you kept moving and you just did it with grace. And that's why I'm like, oh my gosh, like I want to like talk to you. I want to learn more. I want to like really share, what initially sparked um just your journey in documenting. And you're also giving me like major baby fever. Like the 4 months, I'm
Yeah.
like staring at the back of their heads and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like, oh, it's like my favorite because they really start. Hi.
Callahan.
Hi, Callahan. Oh my
There's a
gosh.
fun age. They're starting to
Ugh,
talk a lot and just becoming more aware of their surroundings. They're starting to kind of be aware of each other and
yeah.
noticing each other a little bit more. So that's been really fun to see their personalities and kind of how they are a little bit different.
Yeah. I mean, they look so much alike. Like, I mean, were you able to tell them apart at first, or did you like have to do like little bands on the wrist or
No,
something?
not at all. I think we're just now finally starting to be able to kind of tell them apart. But early on, we could not tell them apart. We kept the hospital bracelets on as long as we could. And the only true telling sign that we were able to differentiate them was Sutton. When she was in the NICU, started developing a hemangioma birthmark. I think that's what it's called.
Okay.
And it's just essentially a red birthmark. And apparently they go away after a few years, but it's on her leg. And so that's how we can tell who is who. And then she also has a little dimple in her ear that Callahan doesn't. And so we always just kind of look for those two marks and be like, oh, okay, this is Sutton and this is Callahan. And we dress them differently. That's the only
I
way.
was going to say.
Like if we dress them the same, it's like, I have no clue. My husband comes home after every day and he's like, who am I holding? So it's funny, but now we're starting to be able to differentiate them. Callahan has more of a rounder face, and Sutton has more of an oval face. So
Oh my gosh, well, they're adorable. And
yeah.
that's so hard to hear that it's, the doctor will give an option to terminate. I mean, you look at these two beautiful girls and you're like, oh my God, like I couldn't not imagine. Now with you, I mean, what were you feeling? Like, I mean, were you nervous your whole pregnancy? How did you keep your stress, down? Because I mean, high risk in general, that title is just intimidating.
hmm Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think at the end of the day, obviously I was feeling all the emotions, nervous, scared, sad, overwhelmed, excited.
Mhm.
And I just think that I just kind of accepted that whatever happens is going to happen. And I can't just live in fear. I can't just stop living life. I have to just keep doing the day-to-day things that help me, that help my well-being mentally and physically. And so I kept up with my routines. I kept up with working out. I kept up with, eating healthy and just doing all the things that I could control, and knowing that there's obviously a ton of things that are out of my control, and whatever happens, happens. And, we were very fortunate, like I said, that everything did work out.
Mhm.
We're very blessed for that. But I think also having my son too to just help distract me, keep my mind off of it, not really having the time to kind of just feel sad all the time. There definitely obviously were days where I felt very sad and would cry and whatnot, but just having him around, I think, just brought me a lot of joy and excitement, and helped take my mind off a lot of the scary things and all the scary possibilities that could have happened. And just having, a good support system as well. My brother is a pediatric neurologist resident, and so having him in our corner as well to just kind of help guide us was also super helpful, and was a huge blessing. And then, like I said, just, it's going to be what it's going to be. And I'm just choosing to control what I can control.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I love that view on it. And um, yeah, I think that's a great message for a lot of moms, for myself included. You know, um, I had a high risk pregnancy and I've been nervous to get pregnant again. But I'm like, the more that I'm allowing myself to just say to myself, similar to what you're saying, is like, you just have to like let it be. And like, what's going to happen is going to happen. And you just have to control what you can.
Right.
And I think that's such a great way to look at it. Instead of just like almost inflating the fear. If you think about it too much, if you let it take over control, like things could end up in a different way because you could put so much on your body that isn't good.
Exactly.
Um,
Stress and everything can really just take over and can do more harm than good. And then you stop taking care of yourself. You stop
mhm.
taking care of, what's important to try to keep the girls healthy or your pregnancy healthy. So, and then obviously, not in my situation, but in others, asking for help, speaking with therapists, seeking mental health. I,
Yeah,
with my son, had really bad baby blues, anxiety, all of the things. And with twins, you're apparently at an even greater risk. And then, not to mention, if you have it the first time around, you're at even more risk the second time around. So I had all of these factors, and I have a history of anxiety and depression. So I had all of these factors kind of working against me. So I really just tried to stay on top of, my mental health as best as I could. I did end up getting back on anxiety medicine ahead of time to just try to help combat a lot of the things. Again, controlling what I can control. And I
yep,
think that really did help. I think there's a lot of stigma around talking about mental health, and um, feeling ashamed for it, or feeling like you're the only one when really you're not. There's a lot of people, and it's just not talked about enough. It's not
yeah,
normalized enough, but it is very normal and it's very real. And so just getting the help that you need.
yeah. And sometimes you don't even know that you're going through it. Like now, my daughter is. I don't know how you were with your first, but she's a year and a half, and I just feel like as the months continue to go by, I feel more like mentally like clear. And I'm
Mm,
like, wow, like I didn't realize the struggle that I was in, or like, like when you look back at photos and like you can almost like see your emotion in your face.
that's
Or like you just like it takes you back to that time. So and I just feel like there's so many first time moms that like they might not understand that they were even going through it until you're like out of it. And then you're like, "Oh my gosh, wait, I did have anxiety. I did have a little bit of depression." And rightfully so, it's a huge life shift. You're going from taking care of yourself to now you got to take care of yourself and this child. Like that is your sole responsibility.
mhm.
Um
And figure out your relationship aspect as well, and how that
yeah,
changes. That's a big one as well that a lot of people don't expect, is how it affects you and your partner. And
it's
some,
so true.
it brings them closer, and others are like, it brought us farther apart. And we were one of those couples that it really took a toll on our relationship. We had to work really hard, seek couples counseling and all of that stuff because you're stressed, you're sleep deprived, you don't know what you're doing, you're both trying to figure it out at the same time. So there's a lot of moving pieces to the puzzle that I think social media especially doesn't do a good job of showing the reality. And I don't
Yeah.
speak for everybody because everyone has different experiences and some have these amazing experiences, and that's amazing. I love that for them. And then there's a lot that have like really hard experiences as well, and those don't get shared enough, I think. And so you can feel very lonely in that and feeling
Yeah.
like you're the only one struggling or going through these hard times. And so that's also been a big role, I feel like, for me in showing up online. And it has really, I think, helped a lot of people is just showing the real and the raw and the vulnerable side of things. Just to help others feel less alone because like I said, social media does a great job at just sharing the highlight and the happy, and not the hard and the vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I know it can be scary showing up online, sharing those things because you don't want to come off as complaining or not grateful and people judging you. And it's just, I kind of just got over that. And, you know,
Yeah. I think you're going to get it regardless. Like if you're putting yourself out there, it's like someone told me like the internet's a crazy place. Like you could be sharing the best, most uplifting stuff and like somebody will find a reason to like knock you down, or just have an opinion in some way. Um Now, I mean, with having your son and then having the twins, like do you feel like bringing the twins was home was harder because you did have them early, so then they had to be in the hospital.
mhm.
So, do you find that like in a way that although that was hard, it was also like a good adjustment because you were able to like come home, have that time with your son again, since you were living away? Like, how was all of that experience?
Yeah, it was, my son, it was hard in the beginning for him while I was in the hospital. He didn't quite understand. Those first couple weeks were hard. After a while, he started to kind of pick up on like, oh, mommy's home. Like whenever my husband and him would like pull into the parking garage or walk into the hospital, he would say, mommy's home, mommy's home. So he picked up on it
Mm,
eventually. But it was nice to be able to come home and spend some time with him and just kind of reconnect with him because I only got to see him mostly on the weekends, even though I was only 30 minutes away at the hospital. Um, just due to my husband's work schedule and all of the logistics, they couldn't really come and see me during the week. So I only got to see them mostly on the weekends. And so having that time to just come home and be with him and just kind of adjust and get back into the swing of things in our routine again, without the girls was really nice to bond with him again because obviously, he's used to being the only child and he
mhm.
didn't quite understand like, oh, mommy's having babies and you're gonna have two babies. And so I think that was good for him and also just for myself as well. It was honestly a lot of people, the NICU is hard. It's very stressful and can be traumatizing and all of the things. Our son, Kason, actually was in the NICU as well for just 5 days when he was born. So we already at the same hospital. So we already had an idea of what we were going into and how it all worked. And that was very comforting, kind of knowing what to expect already. But obviously with the girls coming a lot sooner and being preemies, and having to stay a lot longer, that was obviously very challenging, because it feels like you take one step forward and two steps back, and
Mhm.
you get your hopes up thinking, oh, they're going to come home, and then they don't end up coming home. And so it's just like kind of a constant cycle of, you know, not having any sort of clear cut path to when that day you're going to bring them home is. Um, but yeah, I think honestly, we look back and we were pretty grateful for the time in the NICU because I felt like we got to sleep, and the
Mhm.
minute we brought them home, it was like chaos started, beautiful chaos, right? The
Yeah.
sleep set in, and all of the adjustments and all of the things. And we're like, wow, it actually was nice having the girls in the NICU, having people that are obviously trained to take care
Mhm.
of your babies was comforting in that sense. Even though we couldn't be there as much as we wanted to, obviously having a toddler at home, we could only spend a couple hours a day there. And even some days we weren't even able to make it. That was challenging. But just looking back, I'm just thankful for that time in the NICU because I honestly felt more prepared bringing them home,
Mhm.
bringing our son home when he was in the NICU as well, because we got to have that one-on-one access to ask all the questions and to teach us all the things and everything rather than just like having a baby and leaving after, 2 days or however long the standard people stay in the hospital are.
Yeah.
It's a blessing in disguise, even though it's hard to be there and you feel like you kind of get that newborn bonding experience taken away from you in a sense, because all three of our kids were just kind of rushed to the NICU pretty immediately. We didn't ever get that golden hour time with any of them, so that kind of stinks. But like I said, we were very grateful for our team and just educating us, and obviously keeping them healthy to be able to come home and start this new chapter.
Yeah. So did you know that you were going to be going to inpatient at that time, or was it like a doctor's appointment that led you to them being like, okay, at this point we would recommend this?
Right. So my first ultrasound, when we found out that they suspected MoMo twins, was around 7 weeks. And then they wanted to do a repeat a week later, around 8 weeks, to see if a membrane had formed to make separate sacs. And there still wasn't a membrane that had formed. So they still were suspecting MoMo. And they're like, okay, let's wait closer to 12 weeks, see if a separating membrane has formed. At our 12-week appointment, still was no separating membrane. So they're like, okay, at this point, you definitely have Momo twins. Here's kind of the what it's going to look like this pregnancy and all the things that you're going to have to do. And around that 28-week mark, you're going to have the option to go inpatient if you want. Obviously, no one can force you to, but there are, studies show that there are greater outcomes if you do go inpatient, just because things can change so fast with Momo twins. Um,
Hmm.
as far as like cord entanglement goes, that's the biggest risk as you get further along towards that end of labor or
Hmm.
pregnancy, is when just cords can get knotted really easily. They can get wrapped around one of their necks and just you can lose both of them. So um, I knew it wasn't an option. I was going to go inpatient. For me, it's just what I felt comfortable with and just knowing that's what was going to be best for our girls. And so with that, I had my little routine where I had to get monitored 3 times a day. It was 6 a.m., 2 p.m., and then 10 p.m. I would have to do NSTs, non stress tests, and they had to both be on the monitor and have good accelerations and their heart rates and have all these perfect numbers, whatever they want to measure, for at least 20 minutes. And so, with twins, it could take a really long time because one would pop off, one wouldn't cooperate. Finding them would be hard because they can share, since they share the same sac, they're constantly just moving and flipping and flopping and doing all the things. And so to like have them on the monitors, I could sometimes be on there for up to 2 hours, just trying to make sure everything was good and healthy. We did have a few scares, but nothing crazy. But that's why they want to monitor so closely, is because you could be going into a monitoring session and one of the baby's heart rates could drop and you would be immediately rushed into an emergency C-section. So that's why they do just monitor you so closely, because you just
Yeah.
never know what could happen.
Wow. Well, I definitely probably would do the same. That would not be an option for me either because it's like I rather, well, a for just my anxiety alone, I'd be like, okay, this is the best place for me to be. Um, so at what point did you know when you were going to have your scheduled C-section? And just as you got closer to that, did you say it was a 34-week mark?
That's the latest they will go,
Okay.
at least our doctors. I've talked to other moms that have been able to go a little bit longer, others that have like wanted them to go a little bit sooner. It all just really depends. It's a guessing game at that point. You're just kind of taking it day by day. You're meeting with all of these doctors are constantly coming in and out. Nurses are constantly coming in and out in your room. I don't think we made the final decision for our scheduled C-section until like mid-December.
Mm-hmm.
Our girls were born January 15th, so we didn't really make that decision until January or mid-December. And then once we kind of hit our goal date, they were like, things are still looking good. Let's push it back a little bit further. So we were able to push it back a little bit more than what we originally had planned for. Our original due date, I think, was January 6th, and then things were still looking great. So they're like, let's push it back a little bit more because obviously you want the babies inside of you as long as you can for
Yeah.
all of the various benefits, and especially lung health was a big one.
Mm-hmm.
So we tried to keep them in up until, the last minute for sure.
Yeah. And so did you have a previous C-section or was this your first experience?
I did not with my son. I actually ended up doing an unmedicated labor. So this was a complete 180
Very different.
for sure. Which, they both had their pros and cons for sure. I was not expecting the recovery from a C-section. Oh my goodness. It's nice, going in and having your scheduled C-section, being like, okay, let's get this birthday party started. And like, here, your babies are born in 5 minutes. It's super
Yeah.
quick in and out sort of process. You don't feel any pain. It's coming out in the recovery of the C-section that I was like, wow, okay. I was not expecting that. No one prepared me for that. I'm like, I'm not sure which was more painful, an unmedicated labor or the recovery of a C-section. It was just interesting for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I didn't have an emergency. It was just I had a failed induction, and after so many hours, we just made the decision like let's just go this route. And I know the exact feeling. Like, and my doctor, like, they do explain to you. I don't know if yours did, but like, you know, he was just like, it is a harder recovery moving forward. You might not be able to have, vaginal birth. We may have to go the C-section route. It just depends on certain things. But yeah, I just remember, I mean, you just feel like your body, I mean, is literally cut in half. You're
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, like I can't even pull my pants down or
Yeah.
up. I was scared too to look at like my incision, because you're all bandaged up. And I just remember I was just like, I don't even want to look at it. When I showered, I like was scared to get water on it. I was very, I think at like my 6 week checkup, this is like kind of embarrassing. My doctor's like, girl, you still have glue on your incision. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just like letting it naturally all fall off. Like I'm not picking. I don't want to scrub hard. Like I've been very gentle. And then it's just wild. Like I started working out again and you're like, wow, I'm myself. I'm healed. I'm strong just as much as I was before, if not stronger. So
Mhm.
it's just so wild.
It is
Um,
very wild. I feel like C-sections are very, like, I don't even know the right word. I feel like they're like, you don't really look at them as being like a major surgery, but it's a major surgery. I think a lot
yeah,
of people don't really realize. And for me, at least, with the girls being in the NICU and then having a toddler, like I was not able to like feel like I was able to have a traditional recovery. I pretty much had to like get up and start walking right away. And
yeah,
driving. I think I started driving after like 4 days because my husband went back to work and all the stuff, all the things that you shouldn't be doing. I was lifting things when I shouldn't be lifting more than whatever they say. Don't lift more than your baby. I was lifting way more
yeah,
than my baby, my toddler, who's like 25 pounds, and just like all of the things that I shouldn't have been doing that are highly advised against, and I wouldn't recommend to anybody. In that moment, I just really didn't have much of an option. We don't have family close by. They try to help out as much as we can, but both of our families are hours away. And my husband wanted to take his leave when the girls actually got home from the NICU, so he wasn't
hmm
able to, stay home right after the C-section. And so it's an experience for sure, much different.
yeah. I was going to ask that. I was going to ask about your husband's leave. So how was it then like transitioning? So, how long did you have to stay in the hospital before you got released? And then how was it? Like, how were the girls? Their lung strength and everything like that. Was it better than what they anticipated the weeks that they were? Was there any scares?
So they were pretty on par with what they had expected. They I did have to get the steroid injections to help speed up their lung development. I think I got 2 rounds of steroid shots to help speed up their lung development, which I think did help, but they still came out. Baby A, who was Sutton, we once during the C-section, she was able to come over for a quick second, and like I was able to say hi to her before they took her to the NICU. And then Callahan, she had to be on CPAP right away, and they pretty much wheeled her right to the NICU. I wasn't able to see her after. I just saw her in her little incubator as they like wheeled her out of the operating room. But they both did really well. They were just on standard CPAP and some, I guess they call it pressure. I'm going to blank out on all the like medical terminology,
Oh
but
yeah.
they were on CPAP for a little bit, maybe a week, and then they were able to come off and get on room air, and they were doing really good at that point. And where they were just mostly working on feeding and growing up until, gosh, probably after 2.5 weeks, I think it was, they ended up getting really sick. We got a call at like 6:30 in the morning on a Sunday from the NICU saying that your girls are stable. However, they are really sick. There's something going on. And, we had just left the day before and they were thriving. They had told us, like, oh, we think they're going to be coming home soon, all of these things, getting our hopes up. And then the next day, your girls are declining. They're sick. Something's going on, yada, yada. And it ends up that they both got diagnosed with neck, which is, I would not even know how to pronounce. It's like necrotizing enterocolitis or something like that. But
Okay.
essentially, it's where their bowels have air bubbles in it, which can cause a lot of complications and make them really sick. And so they had to get back on their breathing support, get back on the CPAP. They had to stop all feeds for 7 days. They weren't able to eat for 7 days. They had to be on 7 days worth of antibiotics. They had to get x-rays done every 6 hours and just a lot of interventions. They had to get catheters in and IVs and PICC lines and all of these things. And that was really, really challenging to see and was really, really hard as well to uh, feel like they're coming home and then have this major setback. And that's what's hard about NICU life is
Mhm.
it's a roller coaster and you just never know. And that's why the doctors, they don't like to make any promises. So they don't want to get your hopes up because something can happen out of the blue. But the girls, in true twin fashion, they said it was very bizarre that they both ended up getting it. They like to definitely do things the same. They like to be true twins, and if one's going to do it, the other is going to do it. So that was hard, even being there because they're extra fussy because they're hungry and they're wanting to eat and doing skin to skin. They're just constantly like trying to feed off of me and all of this stuff.
Mhm.
And I think that was heartbreaking to see just how frustrated they were and how fussy they were because they were been used to eating and now you're telling me I can't eat. And so they did well and obviously healed and recovered from it, but there's a lot of complications that can come with that as well, as far as, needing surgery and having to take out part of their intestines and all of this stuff. So again, another battle, but like we were very fortunate and blessed that the antibiotics cleared everything up and they're healthy as can be, and they were able to kind of, after they got over that, start back up on the feeding and growing process. And I think they were in for about a week longer. Once they got better, it took them about a week before they came home.
So how long were they in the NICU?
They were in a total of 33 days. And with that, I feel like for them, I feel like that's probably a little bit of the shorter side. I don't know. Every baby's gonna, right, be different.
Yeah.
Um, but they both got to come home on the same day, which is very rare for twins. Apparently, most will come home on different days. And so we were very fortunate that they got to come home on the same exact day, which was very exciting. Again, they are like true twins. They want to do everything together. So it's cool to see that. But as far as the transition home, I delivered them on a Wednesday. Um, my husband took Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then the weekend, and then he went back to work on Monday. And so he was responsible for like getting our toddler ready in the mornings, and we kind of had a routine. And I would get up and get ready and go straight to the NICU, spend all day there, then go pick our son up from daycare. And then we would just have our evenings together as normal. And then up until they got to come home.
Yeah. Um, what initially started you wanting to document? So was it just something to kind of like, hey, while I'm in here, this is like to show my daughters one day? Or did you just want to share your journey online for moms to relate to you?
Yeah, honestly, looking back, like I'm not even really sure what kind of possessed me to start documenting it. So, backstory on me during COVID 2020, I started a health and fitness wellness online business. So, my Instagram that I use today, that's been this one that I've documented kind of more of this lifestyle content now. That was the same account that I used for my business back in the day. And I think I only had around 10,000 followers at that point. And then when we had our son in May of 2023, I just found this new passion that like I'm meant to be a mom. I love this. I want to just be a stay-at-home mom. And so over the course of 2023, I slowly dissolved my business. I slowly stopped posting on social media, posted a little bit here and there, but nothing crazy or anything like that. Definitely not every day. And then when I knew I was going inpatient, I was like, this could be kind of fun to do and just kind of pass the time and not really thinking anything of it. It just caught a lot of attention, and I was like, how are how could people be that interested? It's like Groundhog Day in there. It's the same thing every single day. You know, how much can you really do in the hospital? But people just wanted to follow along.
Yeah.
I document it every day, and um, then it just has opened up a lot of doors for a lot of cool opportunities. Like I said, mostly just being able to connect with a lot of other women, but also to being able to now transition into becoming a, if you will, influencer. And being able to work with brands that I'm passionate about, and being able to make a little bit of income. And so I think that's been really cool, is being able to stay home with the girls while being able to continue to share our journey, and make a little bit of an income. It's kind of a win-win. So our son, he does go to daycare though. I stayed home with him up until I knew when I was going to be going to the hospital. I, since I was his, sole caregiver, I wasn't going to be home to do that anymore. So we had to figure out a plan. And so daycare was really the only real option. And so we put him in daycare a couple months before I was going into the hospital just to get him adjusted. And he loves it now. He's doing really, really well. And so we just decided to keep him in there for now. And so he still goes to daycare during the week, and I stay home with the girls. And I think that's been a true blessing, because I do not know how I would have handled having him home and the girls, because he is pure boy. He is pure energy. He is a tornado. He does not sit still for more than 5 minutes. He is just bouncing all around. And so he's also a huge mama's boy, too. And so just with having the girls and having that adjustment, it was hard for him in the beginning of obviously not being able to give him all the attention and having to share the attention with the girls and whatnot. And so, yeah, it's been fun to see he's adjusting really well now to the girls, and he loves them and wants to help out and do all the things with them. And the other day it was funny. One of them was crying in their swing in the basement. He goes, "No, Dada, I got it." And he goes downstairs and
Oh,
tries comforting her. And it's really cute. He is loving being a big brother now. So,
well, and it's good too. I feel like my daughter's not in daycare because I just have her. But I'm like, yeah, they're so used to getting that one-on-one attention. And then when you can't give that to them, that's really difficult. And they don't understand when they're that young. And then you have not only one, you have two. So it's not even like you can like hold the baby and juggle something for your son. Most of the time you're probably holding both.
and my husband's
I
holding one, and I'm holding one, and he's just I feel bad because then he's just kind of left by himself. And so
Yeah.
it's hard for sure for everyone to just try to adjust and figure it out.
Yeah. Um, I can definitely understand that. With breastfeeding, because I think you breastfed, correct? Or are you still actively breastfeeding?
Yes, I am still breastfeeding.
So how was that journey? Like, how do breasts produce for two? Like, I mean, does your body know that you're feeding two babies, or like how does that all work, and how has that journey been for you?
Yeah, it's been interesting. So with Kason, our son, I exclusively breastfed him for about 13 months. He refused a bottle like from birth, so I really had no option but to exclusively breastfeed him. So I already had a good kind of foundation with being able to breastfeed him. And obviously, with multiple pregnancies, you never know if you're going to be able to the next time around.
Hmm.
So when the girls were born and also being preemies, I had no clue, like, is my milk going to come in and all of that stuff. And it actually didn't come in for like the first 4 or 5 days. We were relying solely on donor milk while they were in the NICU. But then it was able to come in. And I'm able to produce enough. It actually turns out I'm an overproducer, I guess by nature, but also to just with having twins, your body does know that you are feeding for two. And I want to like have a caveat with that because I've talked to a lot of other twin moms that say their body is not able to keep up with the demand for two, and that can be for so many different reasons.
Hmm.
One being underlying health conditions, stress, lack of sleep. You're not eating enough. Obviously, when you have two babies, you're just constantly tending or caring for one. So to remember to eat is hard. To remember to drink water is hard, and to do all the things that it requires to produce milk can be challenging. Um,
Hmm.
and so, fortunately, I am able to produce enough, but I know there's a lot of moms out there that aren't. And so I don't want other twin moms or other moms in general to just feel discouraged if that's not your journey. I think a fed baby is what's best, however that looks like. And not only for them, but also for your mental health too. Again, kind of going back to that, is don't stress yourself out so much that, just take care of yourself and take care of your babies, however that looks
Yeah.
like. Um, because I know there's a lot of comparison. I know there's a lot of stigma around breastfeeding as well. Like if you're not breastfeeding, you're a terrible mom and all these things. It can be really harsh. And so just however you feed your baby, even if you're producing 1 ounce, that still is amazing. Your body is still doing a ton of hard work to make that milk. But yeah, so I fortunately have been able to breastfeed them, and also will highly recommend seeing a lactation specialist, doing it in home lactation, or going somewhere for a lactation consultant. I think that's been really, really helpful as well because they can help you. They can give you all of these tips and tricks and things to look out for. But also to the girls, they did have tongue ties and lip ties and cheek ties, and that can make it really hard as well for babies to be able to breastfeed and to not latch properly or to get enough milk. So also looking into stuff like that, or pediatric chiropractic care, or sacral work can be a big thing too. So there's a lot of things I think that especially first time moms don't know about that can make their breastfeeding journey hard if that's what you want to do, if you want to breastfeed. I think there's just not enough education around it, and that can be so frustrating and can cause a lot of moms to give up.
Yeah.
Those first couple months can be extremely hard. And if that's something you want to do, is just do your education, talk to lactation consultants, talk to your pediatrician, just find the answer, and figure it out if that's what you want to do, and just stick with it. Practice, practice, practice. It's not breastfeeding is not as easy as it seems for sure.
No.
And that's what we did is we just kept trying and trying and trying and trying, and they're 4 months old and it's become second nature at this point now. But in the beginning it wasn't, right, especially with them being preemies. They don't really get that suck, swallow, breathe. It's like suck, swallow, breathe is like what they have to do, and they don't really pick up on that till they're closer to that full term 40-week mark. And so in the beginning, with them being born at 33 weeks, a lot of it was just kind of, they weren't able to do it, or they would just kind of play around and whatever. But we just kept trying and trying and trying and trying, and they've been able to get it down for sure. And for me, I tandem breastfeed them. I feel like for us, that's just worked well since my husband has gone back to work. I just find for us, it's just makes it easier
Hmm.
to feed them at the same time.
I was going to ask, is that difficult or
In
was
the
that like a little bit of an adjustment?
in the beginning, it was for sure. It's definitely it can be overstimulating, but again, just it was chaos in the beginning, lots of crying, lots of fussing, lots of not latching and all of the things, and just we just kept at it. And I single breastfed them until they could kind of learn how to properly like latch and suck and all of that stuff until they were able to get strong enough. And then once I felt like they were doing fairly well, then we attempted tandem breastfeeding, and it still took them a while to kind of get it down. But yeah,
That would actually, I feel like, be nice because then, like, you always feel like, if your baby gets full off one, then you have to like pump the other one or you feel engorged. So here you're kind of being able to release both at once. But
yeah.
yeah, there's definitely of an overstimulation. I feel like that also isn't talked about with breastfeeding. Like I so remember it. I breastfed for 9 months. And I mean, I breastfed, but I also pumped because I had to pump in like the middle of the night.
Hmm.
And yeah, I like you said, a fed baby is the best. But yeah, I was like determined. I'm like, even if I'm starting to supplement with formula, if I can give her one breast milk bottle a day, like at least that's some really wholesome nutrients. But I just remember at first I was very overstimulated and it's something that I wasn't recognizing. And now, like when you hear other moms talk about it, I'm like, okay, I definitely experienced that. Like I would have like these like rages of like,
Oh yeah,
I
post.
can't do this, or like, okay, I'm uncomfortable, like this is weird. And then I'd be like, no, but then there's like a comfort in feeding her. Like your emotions are all over when
Yeah,
you're doing it.
yeah, your hormones for sure are crazy, especially those early months. It's just insane. It's like it's hard to even, like you said, it's hard to even describe, but definitely the rage, the moodiness, the anxiety, the telling my husband like don't even touch me because I'm overstimulated,
That's how I was.
cat wanting attention. I'm like, no, get away from me. Just having nothing left to give because you're just so overstimulated. And I think now finally we're at the point where them being 4 months, I don't feel as overstimulated. But to your point with pumping, I have been pumping this time around as well, especially because they were in the NICU. I had to pump
Hmm.
first month, and then I kind of continued to pump a little bit as well after that. But that's a whole job in itself too. Pumping does not get as much credit as it should. It's hard work as well. I was not expecting all of the time it takes to pump and to wash bottles and to sterilize and to make the bottles and then clean the bottles and sterilize the bottles too. And so it's almost probably more work than breastfeeding, I feel like. And
Yeah. No, I would definitely agree. At first, I was like, oh, I really like pumping. And then I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm like, this is like a constant rotation. And then you have to, I wasn't, I don't know. I just felt like I could be producing more. And so you hear like, okay, then pump after your baby feeds. And so I was doing the like breastfeeding, putting her down, and then pumping for like 10, 15 minutes after just to like stimulate. And I was like, this is so much work. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, I got an ounce. Or like, then you have your moments where you get like 5 ounces. You're like, wow, look at that.
it's almost a game you're playing, like how much can I get this time?
And then I always did a three once. I don't know how their sleep schedule is. My daughter started sleeping through the night. We got very lucky at 4 months. Um, but I had to pump in the middle of the night. So I'm like, okay, like I'm waking up at 3 a.m. regardless because I'm like, if I don't wake up, that's a 7 ounce bottle that I'm pumping.
Right.
So, and then, my husband would be like, why don't you just sleep? So I would sleep and then I'd be like super engorged. And then I'm like, wait, now I'm behind because like that 7 ounce bottle was normally like the bottle,
Yep.
or like I could freeze. Cause I wanted to have, some that I can freeze in case we needed it. Um, so how is sleep going and how also like, how are you prioritizing yourself right now?
Yeah, great questions. So sleep is hit or miss. We're going through, I think the tricky things with preemies is that you're supposed to go by their adjusted age. And so it's very different, having the experience with our son. He was actually post term. He was born at 41 and 3, and then being born at 33 and 3. It's just been a complete different experience. He was sitting up at 3 months and doing all these things, and these girls are not anywhere, near doing that stuff. And so it's very hard in your mind, because you feel behind, even though you're not. It's just they should
Yeah.
have been in your belly at that point growing. And so I think that's the hardest adjustment, is just trying to figure out, okay, they're 4 months, but really they're technically only 2 months. So they should be doing 2-month-old things, and having those expectations can be hard. And also remembering that they're two babies, they have different needs. As much as we try to keep them on the same schedule as far as feeding and sleeping goes, they're two individuals. They're gonna need, their own needs, and they're not always going to be perfectly in sync with one another. They're pretty good, I would say, for the most part, but there still are days and times where they're definitely not on the same schedule. But with sleeping, we did just go through a little bit of some sort of sleep regression. Like, for example, last night felt like we were up at like almost every hour. But we did, usually they're fairly good about waking up somewhere between 2 and 3, and then again around like 5 or 6. But it's all hit or miss for sure. They did also have, I think, some bad reflux and colic from just being preemies too. So that was a whole other thing to tackle, is they just hated their bassinet. They hated laying flat on their back. And so, not recommending people co-sleep or do these things, but we, did all the things that are not recommended: co-sleeping, sleeping on my chest, sleeping on their twinsy pillow propped up. And
Oh yeah, we had to do the prop up for my daughter. She was born at 37 weeks, and I never took that, and not here listening to you, I never took that in consideration, that that could be why, because she could not lay flat
yeah,
for months.
yeah,
Like, we had a little bit of an elevation, and even when we put her in her crib, same thing. We had to elevate a little bit, and I'm like, okay, like, people would probably judge us, but you know what? You do what's best for your baby. And I mean, I still look at the monitor, and she's she's 19 months old, but I would constantly like wake up in the middle of the night like, okay, she's good.
yeah,
Um, multiple times, but it's just she hated being flat.
yeah, yeah. And I've talked to so many people and our doula, and it's natural for babies wanting to be close to their mom. It's just their natural instinct. And so, again, just doing whatever you feel comfortable with, doing your
Yeah.
research and all that to make sure that if you do co-sleep, you're doing it the right way and the safe way. But yeah, we're in the process of trying to kind of train them to sleep in their cribs during nap time, and hopefully soon
Yep.
put them in there at night. But we're still nowhere near sleeping through the night. With our son, he was a terrible sleeper as well, and we eventually did some gentle sleep training with him around 6 months. We'll see with the girls as they get older again, because they're just behind in things. I think it's just going to take them longer. We might do some gentle sleep training. You just kind of take it day by day, and you just kind of
Yeah.
figure it out.
I mean, they're doing so good. Like, I mean, we've been talking for 53 minutes. I'll tell you this. My daughter at 4 months would have never sat for me to have a conversation.
They're more calm than my son was.
So they are so calm. I mean, and they're just growing so well. I mean, obviously I followed your journey, and I'm like, oh my gosh, look how big they're getting. Like,
They're chunky girls now. They're
it's
just like, it's crazy. Yeah.
it's so crazy, but it's so beautiful. And yeah, I mean, my daughter, she didn't walk till she was 15 months old.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, I'm like, and I was always, comparing, like, oh my gosh, there's Roxy at 11, and you're
Right.
just like, your baby's going to do things
It's
on
on
their
there.
own time,
Exactly. For sure.
so they're perfect the way they are.
Thank you. And yeah, she's passed out over here, which is like Sutton is passed out in her bouncer over here, which is like never happens. She's the better sleeper. I'm thinking we might have to start separating them for sleeps and naps and stuff, because Callahan, she's more feisty, and
So they don't wake each other up
yeah,
too.
I think she's the one that Callahan wants to be comforted. She wants to be rocked to sleep. She wants to nurse to sleep. And Sutton, she'll just put herself to sleep and be okay. So I think we're gonna have to start separating them, which makes me a little sad, because I'm like, I don't want to separate them, but
But then
Hopefully,
there'll be a time when they're going to want to be back
yeah.
together.
I'm like, hopefully
Like,
once they get their sleep stuff figured out, we'll put them back together, and so we'll see.
yeah. And then how do you, so like literally, how do you prioritize like your mental health right now? Like what are some things that you do to really just give yourself time?
Yeah, so a big thing that I did for both my son, for that pregnancy and the girls was meal prepping. I meal prepped so much ahead of time when I was pregnant and made a whole freezer stash of meals to just have food on hand, because that's the big thing that a lot of moms, just, you just kind of forget is,
And you don't eat.
and you don't have the time to eat. So having all of that, taking that time was huge. My mom came up a few times and helped meal prep some meals, and I got my freezer stash going. So that was a saving grace for sure. And then eventually I looked into some meal prep services to utilize a couple times here and there throughout the week for just quick, easy things when I don't have the time as well, to just use a healthy meal prep service to make sure I am getting in all the nutrients that I need. And then for as far as just like physical exercise goes, just trying to get outside and walk once a day. I have, you can see here, a little walking
Oh
pad.
yeah, like a walking pad.
Highly recommend every mom gets a walking pad for sure, especially twin moms. It can be very hard to, pack them up and get them out and do all the things. There's a lot of anxiety that can come around that. And so just when they're napping, I just will try to get a 10-minute walk here or there. Then if one's fussing, I'll tend to them, shush them back down, get back on the treadmill, just get some steps in here and there throughout the day when I can. And then just same thing with workouts as well, doing some workouts at home, as well as too, we do have a membership where there's a kids club there, that I will put them in the kids club. And that's been a saving grace too, that just having that me time, I think, is so important, and is something that I really didn't prioritize much after Kason. I'm just going to feed her really quickly. It's okay, honey. It's okay.
Mm. Can I just say, like, you're literally like mom of the year. Like, I like want to end the podcast interview because I'm like, no, go take care of your baby.
Yeah,
Um,
she just, but yeah, the first, being a first time mom, it's really hard to try to figure out the balance and prioritize yourself. And I've definitely learned this time around to do that more.
mhm,
Just because it's important and it's needed for sure. And I think also being a first time mom too, I didn't really want to accept any help. I just wanted to do it all myself. I was very controlling in that sense of like, oh, no one can do it better than me, sort of thing. And that wasn't good at all. It brought a lot of resentment towards, my husband and other people, because I don't know, I had a hard time asking for help, and
mhm,
or feeling like, no one was doing it as good as me or good enough to my expectations. And that's, not the reality. Is like, people want to help you for sure, and accepting that help is so important so you can take care of yourself and your health
mhm,
physically and mentally. And so this time around, and especially with two, it's like I need all the help I can get, and I'm much more open to having the help. If you have help, not everyone
mhm,
has help, but definitely finding a gym that has some sort of kids club that you can just leave and take some time for yourself for an hour or two or whatever. Even if it's just to go sit. Like sometimes I will just like sit and quiet and not even work out, but just like sit and relax. Is It's important to carve out that time for you, because let's face it, having a morning routine doesn't exist. Having an evening routine doesn't really exist. You're in the thick of things, especially early on that first year. And so, just if you can find a little bit of time here and there to take for yourself is so important.
yeah. No, I love that. And I can definitely, yeah, I didn't bring my daughter to a gym, but that does sound nice because there are those moments where you just need to sit. Even if you Yeah, just sit in peace. It's so important. And then also if you're breastfeeding, because if you're overstimulated, if you're stressed, like your milk supply can drop. There's so many things that can happen. And I was gonna say the meal prepping too. How many moms are we depleting our bodies trying to breastfeed and then we're not, pouring back in those nutrients to our own bodies to make more. Um, well, you kind of just already like gave advice, but my last question was gonna be like for any moms who are, transitioning and going to be having twins with a toddler or a high risk pregnancy, or for the mom that's going to be, needing to be inpatient, and living at the hospital, like what advice do you have for them?
That's a good question.
It's a
Um,
loaded question.
yeah, it's a very loaded question. Stay off Google for sure. Do not fall in the Google rabbit hole and Google all your symptoms and all of the things because you're just going to stress yourself out even more. Um, try not to, same with social media, like take everything on social media with a grain of salt. You really don't know what's happening behind closed doors and all the things, and everyone's body's different. Trust your body. Your body was made for this. Take care of yourself is the big thing. Ask for help when needed. And just, yeah, just know, just know that you're going to be okay, and whatever happens happens. It's how I truly feel. And you got this. I'm always sending all my good vibes and my love your way, and you will get through the hard times. You will come out on the other side, and just take it day by day. That's really all you can do.
Yeah. No, that's so true. I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been so great to talk to you. And now I want to go have more babies after seeing those girls.
I know. I'm like, are we gonna have a fourth? I'm like, they're like fun moments where the girls are good and everything's good. I'm like, I can totally see us having a fourth. And then there's other moments where I'm like, no, this is it. We're done. But I don't know. I never say never, but I'm also,
Yeah.
if we have twins again, like, oof, I don't know. That's an interesting one. I don't know how that works. If you're at an increased risk for twins again or not. If you already have one set, I don't know, but I could not imagine.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's so, yeah. I mean, I definitely, I think my dad's friend is like, he's like one of 16 and there was like multiple sets of twins. Oh,
Wow.
that was just one mom and dad. Like they were married. I think they're still married, but yeah, one of 16.
Bless them.
So I don't know. It might increase, but yeah, I get you never truly know. But around the 4 month mark, I remember when my daughter was 4 months old, I'm like, maybe we should start trying. And now then I was like starting to feel myself, and when you really come out of it, then you're like, no, I don't want any more. Like I was like struggling for a bit. I was like, I don't know, maybe one's all we have. And I never imagined myself saying that. But now that she's like a year and a half, she sees little babies. It's getting easier. I'm like, you know what? I mean, literally, like, even just seeing your daughters, I'm like, oh my God, every little baby I see now, I'm like, oh my gosh.
And I'm like,
So,
we have another. I'm like, they're all going to be potty trained and
yep.
independent and all the things. But yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, to each their own. There's some people that are like, oh, I rather have them all in diapers. For me
Oh,
personally, I'm like, I would like my daughter to be potty trained, a little more self sufficient.
mhm.
So we're getting to that point where I'm like, okay, I'm highly considering. And that's why I just, yeah, every baby that I see. But I'm just so happy. I mean, honestly, like, I so appreciate you sharing your journey. Like, I'm not even a twin mom, but I'm a mom who, you look for inspiration and you truly do. Like, I know it's funny how you mentioned who's going to watch this like Groundhog Day routine, but like moms do because they're like, wow, okay, you're doing it. Like, I can do this. Um, especially with those moms that are freshly like newly postpartum and like it hit him like a rock, or like just hit him in the face. I mean, because I was very much. I think I'm praying going to two is going to be much easier than going to one for me because it was very difficult. But now I'm like, okay, now I know what I'm doing. Every baby's different, so you just never know. But
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. But
Yeah, no, I mean, also one thing I highly recommend, especially for first time moms, is I had no idea what a doula was until I saw someone on social media mention it. And so we did hire a doula for our first pregnancy, and that was a saving grace. I feel like that truly made the experience so much better and having a positive birth experience. Um, because I feel like you hear a lot of moms who just have very traumatizing births and pregnancies and all of these things. And it's just, again, because you don't know that you have options when it comes to
mhm.
birth preferences. And but also, too, you fall into the rabbit hole on Google and Googling all these things. And so just having like someone to go to who's like a trusted person who's trained for this to be your Google, to give you advice, to help you have the experience that you want, that made the difference, I feel like, with our pregnancy and birth with our son, Kason. And then we would have hired her again for the girls, but just with their circumstance and everything being out of our control and all of that stuff, it just didn't make sense. But that's a big thing, I think, that I highly recommend if you have it in your funds to be able to hire a doula. I would definitely look into that as well. They can really help, and they've helped a lot postpartum as well. Our doula, she's amazing. She came over and checked on us postpartum. She's done overnights with the girls, so that way we can sleep. And so she's been just truly like a godsend, I feel like,
Mhm.
and has just made the experience with having children just so much more pleasant.
Yeah. No, I love that. And it's funny, I was the same way. One of my friends was actually going to become a doula. And I was like, "Oh yeah, like I'll let you know." And then I was high risk, so we ended up just not needing her because I went into the hospital earlier than I thought. Um and but I where I was going with this is I actually interviewed somebody, Blake Stewart. She's a doula out of Florida, because I was like, let's talk about what doulas offer and what they can do. And it's just so wild. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like it can just totally change your pregnancy, like just experience.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. And just going in with an open mind as well too. And, knowing that even if you do have these birth preferences, knowing that it's not going to be 100% of what you had envisioned and stuff like that. But just at least having those can be helpful, and
Yeah.
communicating with your care team as well. She was kind of the go-to person to communicate with all the nurses and the doctors and stuff like that, to where like we didn't have to try to communicate. We just got to focus on the birth and focus on my husband and I just in that moment. And so that was really, really nice.
Yeah, or just knowing like what's going on. Like for my induction, I'm like, they gave me so much stuff, and like, you know what? My birth went the way that it was supposed to, but I'm like, I would have loved to know a little bit more about like what was going into my body. Okay, what's this gonna do? Are there complications? Like I didn't ask any of those questions because I didn't think I had the time. I was exhausted. My husband's like scared, like, what's going on here? Let's just follow the doctor's orders or what they're doing. And then you're like, you know, you do have options. So
Yeah,
it's good to know.
definitely
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Um,
cool.
I'm excited to just continue to watch these little girls grow, and continue to watch your journey. And I so appreciate you just sharing and just being so vulnerable.
Yeah, I appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. And like I said, it was so nice having adult interaction
Yes.
around babies all day, saying goo goo and gaga. So it was very nice to actually have a real conversation.
Yeah, it was so nice to talk to you. And you're doing such an amazing job, honestly, like beyond amazing. Like you look
Yes.
great. Just everything is, you know, I really appreciate it.
Well, appreciate you. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.